Ah, Good morning.
Good morning. Today is the last Sunday in February, February 25th, 2024. And we were just discussing that spring starts in March. So we're
For some of us,
about to change season.
if you live in Rochester, New York, or Minnesota, it starts around middle of May. Yeah. And then summer is from June through August, if you're lucky. Here, it's quite different.
Yeah, it's beautiful here.
So if you wonder where we are today, we're in Hawaii. And we're virtually in Hawaii.
Virtually in Hawaii, yes. We're really still here in Florida. And our talk today is on the power of purpose.
What a great title.
Yeah, guess who came up with that?
Oh, I forgot it was me. That's right. Okay.
And so let's think about purpose, for example, and think about what is your purpose. And it's okay for your purpose to have changed at different stages in your life. As a matter of fact, it should change with different stages of your life. But purpose is very important because it guides your everything that you do. Warren Buffett was asked, why was he leaving all his money when he dies to Bill Gates?
And not me.
Yeah, Bill Gates doesn't need any money. Why are you doing that? And he said, I'm doing that because Bill Gates believes that no single life is more important than another. And that's why he is devoting his life now to helping the people who need help around the world. And he has done so much to end polio, and then began working on so much to end malaria, which we don't have much of here, but is a very big killer of young children in Africa and South America. I believe South America.
Yeah.
So at any rate, that's why he's leaving his money to him. Well, that's something that we believe too. You know, we believe that no one person is more important than the other because we are all children of God. We are all souls. And so that, if you think about that, that probably affects your purpose today. Bob and I were thinking about it, and I asked him, what do you consider your purpose? You want to tell them?
I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah. Well, I've given a lot of thought to it, and I think first off, we're all multi-purposed, and that we have a lot of different things that we're here, I think, to do. And I think because we have a lot of different things to do, we may lose track of our true purpose. My true purpose, as I believe it to be, is to uplift, encourage, and empower human beings. And I think about uplifting, encouraging, and empowering. That doesn't mean for my benefit. It doesn't mean to make money. It doesn't mean to be important or to have value. It means that my efforts and my energy, if spent correctly, I will see the result of that in the people that I meet, the people that I work with. In my case, because I work in a mental health center, I'll see the people that I work with getting better. And I make that distinction.
You'll see it in your mind's eye.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'll see it in their behavior. I'll see it in when they meet with the doctor, and the doctor says, you're really doing much better. What's happening? And they'll say, well, I spent a lot of time talking to Bob or someone else or this place, and I'm getting better. And so what I know is that my effort, my intention to make a difference, to be of help, to be of service, is actually being rewarded in their experience. I think that the big distinction I want to make is that so often, without meaning to, our purpose is to avoid having bad things happen. Our purpose is to have our worst fears not come true. And when you're driven by the idea of your fears not coming true, even when you're a success or the thing that you want to have happen happens, it's not something you can claim. You simply were able to avoid a bad thing happening. And so I want to make that distinction. When your purpose is clear to you and you're able to fulfill that purpose, it's very different from what happens when your purpose is to avoid bad things happening. I notice people that are nice sometimes are nice in order not to be disliked, as opposed to being nice because it just feels good. It's part of the picture of who we want to be and who we are. And to be our best self is to be invested in this human condition in a positive way. And I think we often, like I said, end up with, let's hope nothing bad happens today, or let me see if I can avert bad things happening. If you're on a trip, you're on a cruise, and you pay a lot of money for a cruise so that you don't have to have the conversation in your head, what if something bad happens? What will I do? Without meaning to, we're often trying to create situations in which we can enjoy ourselves differently than we often experience ourselves, which is a kind of quiet, almost obscure kind of fear. And so what I think is happening to a lot of us in a lot of our lives is we're living fear-based lives. And our purpose is not to have bad things happen, as opposed to, what if there was nothing to be afraid of? What if my life is a celebration and I can celebrate it with as many people as I can?
I think you're right. I think my purpose changed when I came into this teaching and really began to study it and understand it and live by it. Because I think my purpose probably before, and I came into it young. I was
Yeah.
29 years old or so when I came into this teaching. And my purpose really before that was to try to be successful in business, to try to take care of myself financially. And, everyone's goal in your 20s seems to be to try to be successful in business, to make enough money so that you have security. And so, of course, in the work I was in, which was in sales and building an organization, my interest always was to help other people. But the primary goal was for me to make money. And so I think that was the primary one because I think I ended up doing more helping others than I did making money. But nevertheless, when I got into this teaching, it was, and to understand that we are all part of God. Each one of us is a part of God, that God is in us, as us, and lives through us, and that we can use the power of God by visualizing, knowing the truth, using affirmations to create the life that we want. And that everybody has that same right. Then I wanted to do nothing but to share that with everyone because it takes such a load off of you. It really takes a load off of you to know that no one opposes you, that God is not against you. I did grow up in a religion that was very sin-based. And if you do this, you'll go to hell. And if you do that, you'll go to hell. And all of it on a weekly basis if you didn't go to confession and confess your sins. So it was very different. And I had left that. I had left it behind, but what was left for me was a void. I didn't believe in anything. And to not believe in anything and not believe in any power greater than you puts a huge burden on you to do everything right for yourself. And it was so different to learn that there was a power for good in the universe
And that you could use
that
it.
was greater than I am, and I can use it. And so I think my purpose then changed to really share that message with everyone that I could, because it just really lifts a burden of trying to do everything right.
Well, when your life is about encouraging, uplifting, and empowering other people, to the extent that that actually works, you get to be in that environment. You get to experience that with that person. You get to be a part of that. And I think if you're not having the experience you want in your daily living, the question is, what are you doing to create that? Not who do you have to go to or what do you have to do out there? What do you have to do in here? I think when we greet people, we often sit out and have a cup of tea after I get home from work. We'll sit out on the balcony here, and people come up the stairs on our walkway, and they'll come up the stairs and
We live in a multi-level condominium
right.
with
So
walkways.
people are walking up the steps, and what's interesting is that they'll walk up the steps and they'll see us, and it's like, oh, we need to say hi. And there's a sort of reticence. They weren't anticipating having to say hi. And so I will say to them, we're your welcoming committee. We wanted to welcome you home, to which they will laugh. And once they've laughed, the walls fall down. And what's interesting is when I say that to them, then what will happen is we'll have a 5 or 10 minute conversation where they will stop and What's happened is they don't even realize it, and we don't often realize it. We have a script that we're here to fulfill, even if it isn't important. And something interferes with the script, and we're not sure what we're going to do and how we're going to work that out, and it's a problem to be solved. And so, without meaning to, we are often unconscious problem solvers, even when there's no problems, as opposed to unconscious celebrators
Right.
or unconscious joy seekers or joy creators. And so, I think of Leo Biscaglia. And one of the times he got on an airplane and the mood seemed to be rather somber. And he said, well, I think it's time for us to have a party. And so he invited the flight attendants to participate in the party, and everybody, well, it was just a raucous party event all the way. And that's particularly interesting to me now when I see the number of airline fights we're having, where people are getting on the plane with an attitude, not of gratitude, but an attitude of anger and frustration. And they're waiting for some way to express that instead of the joy that they have a seat, that there's a place to sit, that there's people next to them they can get to know. And so I think we have a chance to shift our purpose from, I've got to get through this day, or let's not have anything bad happen, or I've got to get what I'm here to get, and that's what I'm here for, to how can I celebrate the experience of daily living with as many people as I can celebrate it with.
Exactly. Yeah, we definitely need more of that on the airlines. They're starting to wonder how they can change their culture. They're having
Well,
so
and
much
they're doing some
violence.
things, American Airlines now, each person when they get on the airplane is being handcuffed.
Wrong. Don't spread
Okay,
rumors.
okay, I'm sorry. It'll be out on social media by the end of the day, right?
So this week we lost a very important person who definitely lived with a purpose, and that is Alexei Navalny. He died
We
in
don't know.
prison up on the above the Arctic Circle. He was just transferred. I'm just going to read a little bit about him. That he was serving a 19-year sentence on charges of extremism. Can you imagine if we in this country had charges for extremism? But he was sentenced to prison in central Russia, and he was just moved to a penal colony above the Arctic Circle in December. So that was just 2 months ago. And he died one day after his mother visited him, and he was fine, and there's video of that. So it's very suspicious. The Russia says that he died of natural causes,
Mhm.
but everyone is very suspicious of that because we know Putin tried to kill him
Well,
several
it's
times.
natural.
It's already poisoned him.
It's natural to die if you've been poisoned or.
Yeah. So actually, the many of the countries are asking for an investigation into it. Global leaders are demanding an investigation into his death. And so some of the people went to the streets to mourn him because, they kept his body. They couldn't do a funeral, but they were greeted, they were handed, many of them, draft summons for the country's military. Can you imagine going to mourn a hero and be given a draft to go fight in the army? We know how fun that would be right now with the country Ukraine that they're fighting with constantly. So Navalny was a lawyer, an anti-corruption activist, and a political prisoner. He organized anti-government demonstrations and ran for office to advocate reforms against corruption in Russia and against Putin and his government. He was the founder of the Anti-Corruption Foundation and was recognized by Amnesty International as a prisoner of conscience because he went back voluntarily. He knew they would imprison him. He was awarded the Sakharov Prize for his work on human rights, and supporters have likened him to South Africa's Nelson Mandela. They were hoping that he would one day be freed from jail and lead the country. So I want to share with you some of his quotes. These are some of the things he said. Ideas are more powerful than armies. To be brave is not to have no fear, but to face your fear and overcome it. And change is not an event, but a process. It requires patience, perseverance, and determination. Leadership is not about holding on to power, but about empowering others. So it sounds like his philosophy is similar to ours in that regard. So we want to remember him because he was a man who lived with a purpose.
Well, we want to think about how far are we willing to step out into our lives to be who we really are, to allow our true selves to be revealed. I think the politics of our time often inhibit our own nature. And so the politics of the community that you live in may very well limit your willingness or your ability to live the life you want to live. But I think more insidious than that is that the politics often erode our consciousness without us even realizing it. And so when I talked earlier about the fear we have a fear of rejection, we have a fear of loss. The social worker, PhD social worker, what's her name now?
Brene Brown.
Brene Brown. She wrote a lot about the not enoughness that we suffer from. And so a lot of us, and myself included, there's lots of times during the course of a day or a week or a month or the year where I think my reaction to life is a reaction to the not enoughness that I don't even know exist, as opposed to the abundance of spirit and the abundance of love and the abundance of good. If I make a mistake, I'm more likely to think of myself as a mistake rather than having made a mistake. And so the politics of our daily living often has us, like I said, living in a fear of being real and true. So then how can we be true to the purposes that we just got done listening to of an individual who said, I'll put my life on the line for what I believe to be valuable. We actually put our value online every day without realizing it and then behave in a way that erodes our nature, our good. I'm always struck when somebody falls in love, and I think it's an interesting term, falls in love, meaning you're falling out of your normal conscious state, you're falling out of what's rational and reasonable. And what I find interesting about that, there's lots of things interesting about it, including the enjoyment that you experience when it's happening to you, is how observable it is to other people. So you've got somebody, what do you mean? I can tell you glow. What's the glow? The glow is I'm no longer just thinking about me. I'm thinking about love as it exists in me, as me, around me. You could say God would be the same thing. God in me, as me, surrounds me, fulfills me, moving through me. Nothing can go wrong. And I want to comment even a little further on that, the nothing can go wrong, because people will say you're unrealistic, you're stupid, you need to get over it. And I would rather die having believed in an eternal life that is wonderful and blessing than I would having lived my life in fear of sin and the possibility of going to hell just around every corner. Because the truth is the quality isn't going to be in the afterlife. The quality is in this life. The afterlife will take care of itself.
Yeah.
You know, I've often said to people, you want to understand exactly what this is all about an hour after you're gone, you'll be able to figure it out. Until then, why don't you live as much as you can live, as authentically as you can live, and pay attention to the barriers that you are creating that are fear-based.
Exactly. Yeah. Fear definitely keeps us from living a life of purpose. But you can bring yourself back to what you know
You
is
sure
true,
can.
what you know is true, and live on that principle.
Well, and maybe one of the ways to do that, we're hearing a lot about mindfulness now, being mindful. And what a lot of mindfulness is about is, could you become present to the present moment? And if you think about not being present to the present moment, what you're present to are all the fears and all of the history and all of the stories that you may have been living that erode your ability to be present in the present moment. And so the real thing we have to do is, if we can, center ourselves in the moment. And we were sitting out, like I said, having tea yesterday, and we're getting to know this mockingbird that lives in a large bush right in front of us where she has her nest. And so she sits on top of this bush and she just sings and sings and sings, and made me getting to know some of her songs. Being with her and her song was wonderful. It's easy to say, it's a mockingbird. I've seen it before. Next. And I think we have to stop saying next and say, can I be present now? And if you're getting ready for the next moment, the good moment, the one you wanted, the vacation, the honeymoon, the graduation, when the new car comes, when the bills are paid, if you're waiting for your good to occur when those things have happened, you'll never have the good that you're looking for.
Right. Another good purpose and goal is to be in joy,
Mm,
as much as you possibly can. Because if you're not, you're wasting a moment of joy. Worry and concern can always rob us of that joy. And most of it that we do, is unwarranted, because most
yeah.
of the things we worry about never come true.
We're not, most of us will not die from the things we were afraid of. They may be a killer to our mood and to our joy and to our ability to get along with people. And I work with a lot of people who have severe mental illnesses, which is an interesting thing, because what that tells me is, as I've done this for a lot of years, is that it's the volume turned up on the normal insanity most of us have. The insanity of believing that everything is going to end and I need to be prepared for it, rather than everything is just beginning and I need to enjoy it. And so the more pessimistic people get, the more ill they get, but they get ill because of the pessimism, not just because of the way their brain is wired. And so we need to rewire our conscious minds if we can, to be willing to, if we can, find our purpose or decide on a purpose and then go in that direction and not let anything stop us. Now, about purpose again, if somebody says, "What's your purpose?" you may not know it. Pick a purpose. Choose
And
something.
pick a big one.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of quotes here
Oh,
that are
this is
so
good. Yeah.
good. The first one is by Michelangelo. He says,
Is he an important person?
did he do a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
good stuff? He says, the greatest danger for most of us is not that our aim is too high and we miss it, but that it is too low and we reach it.
Yeah. Don't we see that in relationships? I just want somebody that's nice to me. Oh, that's it. Yeah. Do they need to have a job? I don't know. Do they need to be intelligent? I don't know. I just want somebody nice to me. And they get somebody that's nice to them who's also in a wheelchair and brain dead, but it's okay,
Let's see, also Catherine Ponder.
Oh,
We
yeah.
know her. She was a wonderful prosperity teacher in New Thought. And she said this in her book, Dynamic Laws of Prosperity. When you seem to fail, remind yourself that it is because you have not asked big enough. Expand your viewpoint and expectation, and a larger answer than you originally anticipated will surely come. Failure is nothing but success trying to be born in a bigger way.
Imagine for a minute that you're a baby and imagine that you've discovered that you can actually move and you begin to crawl and your world just starts to get bigger because you're crawling. And then imagine that you decide to stand up. Now, that's a huge step. You've never done this in your entire life. You've never stood up in your entire life. That's a goal, an insurmountable goal. You've got rubber legs, you've got no balance, you're brand new at this, and you're trying to stand. Now imagine that you do this 2 or 3 times and you fall down each time. And then imagine that you construct a story that some people are made for walking, but not you. And that you're sorry that you'd like to be a walker. And we've even seen people who apparently can run. But you see, my story is I fell down 3 times and that's it. How many of you have fallen down 3 times and have a story about falling down that has you not be able to walk the way you want to or where you want to and in the way you want to walk in life? So, but that really amplifies in my mind the falling down because the goal is bigger than your ability. You eventually have to step up to your ability. You have to create that ability, and you can. But I like the idea of if well, I've heard this before. If you're the smartest person in the room, go to a different room, because you'll be encouraged by more than you rather than less than you.
Indeed. So I think it's time now for us
My goodness,
to have our celebration
of giving,
sharing,
yeah.
of sharing. And so we invite you now to support this ministry. Let's see, why is that there? I don't know.
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Okay, so I've gone to a page on our website, which is cslpalmbeaches.org. And here we have our affirmation of giving. And so I'd like you to say it with me as you consider how you support what you like hearing. And say with me, my investment today is made with the full realization that God is the source of my supply and returns it to me enriched and multiplied.
Now, if you're
That's
not a
how it
regular
is.
viewer of this live, but you're viewing this later on video, you're tuning in from California or from Nebraska or from Tennessee or wherever you're viewing it. But we can still will very much appreciate your donation. So
Right. And
feel
this
free,
is the little area that you
Right.
click on when you go to our website, ways to donate. We'll show you how.
because it makes it possible for us to continue to do this. This is an expenditure of time and of effort, and we love doing it. But what's also important is that you understand that we're supported by you. We are here because of you. And we're going to stop our recording.